Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Now International Rugby finally made its return to the Southern Hemisphere in the weekend just past. So, as we did last week, we're going to have a bit of a look back at the weekend of action and look forward again tomorrow, hopefully, after the squads are being named to this weekend's action coming your way. Again, a return of all the 3 test matches we had last weekend. So again, we're going to have Wales touring New Zealand, England touring Australia, and Ireland to South Africa. Let's have a look back at those 3 matches that took place, and we got a bonus one as well, which just took place tonight as I'm recording that. The game pretty much just finished. It was Wales up against the Chiefs. Now, if you haven't tuned in or seen that result or that game at all, you better brace yourselves for what that result was. But we'll look at that one last, as it was just a bit of a midweek friendly, if you will, for the Welsh squad. But a very amazing match, an amazing result as well. But we'll start where we started in the weekend. The All Blacks were up against Wales, the opening match of the Southern Hemisphere tours. And it was the All Blacks who, of course, favourites heading into this match. And my thought for this game before it started was the All Blacks would win it 39-26. That was my prediction for the matchup. What actually happened, I was pretty much almost exactly dead on. Now, I remember talking about it quite clearly. I even looked back and made sure I mentioned this sort of thing. I said in the preview, I expect Wales to be leading this game at the 60th minute. The hour 50-60 minute mark, I said Wales will be leading this matchup. And that is exactly what happened as well. But I did say beware the All Blacks. Last 20 minutes is where they come to their best. And I was watching that match, and I was not surprised whatsoever about what transpired in the closing 20 minutes of that game. The All Blacks go from behind and looking like they could be a bit rattled. I mean, I was getting hate from here to hell on Twitter from this matchup about the All Blacks going to lose, and I was getting the boot laid in from some people about this, and all I had to say for them was wait till the 60-minute mark. Wait for the hour mark, and then, you know, when that final whistle goes, as Ireland can attest to, the game isn't over until that final whistle goes. And what actually happened, exactly what I thought. The All Blacks powered away and absolutely destroyed the Welsh over the final 20 minutes and powered away to a 39-21 win. Now, I also stated, you know, I predicted Wales to get another 5 points than they actually did, whereas I got the All Blacks score dead on. So, a fantastic match. I think it was a great match to kick off the series. It was an exciting game. The underdog in Wales really had a chance, and they did look like they could win that match, but it always was going to come down to that final 20 minutes. Standout players for Wales, so Liam Williams at fullback was very dangerous. Very, very good runner of the ball back into the attacking line as well. And Toby Faletau, probably one of Wales' best players, I think, at the moment. He was in great form, very hard runner, very hard to stop, very hard to put down as well. He gave him that go-forward ball when they were looking for it most desperately, and he is just one of those all-round great players. Very similar kind of to Kieran Reid. He's quick enough and agile enough to get around, and still getting that power as well, and he is a real key aspect to this Welsh squad. And again, Liam Williams, I thought, was quite good as well. The centre battle, what I talked about in the preview very much about, didn't happen, did it? Didn't really happen. Crotty, Fekitoa, they dealt with Robertson Davies, no problem whatsoever. And vice versa. I don't think Fekitoa really had much impact on the match. And Ryan Crotty, he just does what Ryan Crotty does. Does the basics, does things well, makes his tackles, and keeps hold of the ball when he goes to contact. Nothing really happened. Overall, when you talk about the All Blacks in this matchup, I thought they were very, very rusty, as we all expected. And that was Wales' chance to get a win on the tour as well. That was their biggest chance, their only chance, and I think it's only going to get worse, especially after what happened tonight against the Chiefs. Standouts for the All Blacks, I think Ben Smith and Aaron Smith were exceptional. I think Richie McCaw was a great leader and very inspirational man. They had that aura about him, but I think we have another one stepping up. Not in the forward pack, though. He's in that mix, in that break between forwards and back. Aaron Smith is an absolute genius. He is an absolute passion in that team. And I think if anyone is struggling for motivation or a reason to make that big play, Aaron Smith, he will shove it down their throat with no uncertain terms what needs to be done. He is so key for the All Blacks right now. I think Jerome Kano, even though there's a bit of talk about how he struggled in that match, I think he still had a very strong game. Waisake Naholo, I wouldn't put him in the great category. On attack, he was so hard to stop, so fast. He burnt off the Welsh defenders with absolute ease. But defensively, we've seen some frailties in his game. Chasing back kicks and taking high balls wasn't his best match whatsoever. But one thing we will talk about to wrap up this game was the referee, Wayne Barnes. Now, from my perspective watching this game, he made a pile of howlers. And then you've got to look at the game in a neutral kind of stance as well. And you've got to look at it from Wales' perspective. He made some absolute howlers towards the Welsh as well. I don't think either side was really advantaged more than the other. I think the All Blacks probably got the most noticeable call in the forward pass. That wasn't actually a forward pass, which screams huge irony back to the Rugby World Cup against France, where they knocked out the All Blacks with a forward pass that was called not forward by the same referee. But that's another conversation for another day. Wayne Barnes, he always comes to New Zealand. There's always big poo-ha about his history with the All Blacks, and he continues to dig himself a big hole. I think he missed a lot of calls against the All Blacks. He missed a lot of calls against Wales. I think it was one of those games he's had a really shit match, and I just don't rate the guy as a referee whatsoever. Looking from both sides of the field, completely neutral comment. I don't know, can he not handle the style of match in the Southern Hemisphere? Because he seems to be pretty well regarded in the Northern Hemisphere. I don't know, let me know what you think about Wayne Barnes. A lot of you guys in the Northern Hemisphere would have seen him a lot more around club rugby and things like that, being an English referee. But I just think he comes down here and he just hashes everything up. He goes to Australia, he hashes everything up. I just don't get the guy. And, you know, your TMO tells you it's not a forward pass. It's not a forward pass. I mean, the commentators, I was listening to the Northern Hemisphere Sky commentators, and as rubbish as a lot of you will say they are, they were all saying, yeah, that's a try, that's a try. We can't argue with that. And to be fair to them, they weren't too bad as far as bias goes as well. But, you know, when your opposition is saying, yeah, that's fine, you know, Wales are accepting that's a try, and then Wayne Barnes the Dick says, no try. I mean, that was the biggest howler of them all, but one of many. I just think Wayne Barnes, he needs just to learn the rules, you know? Really needs to learn the rules, especially that forward pass rule. Just seems to be missing from his head. That's enough about the All Blacks versus Wales. However, 39-21 the final score. The All Blacks coming home strong and putting the Welsh to bed. Next up, we make our way to Australia, where they were playing the English tourists, coming to what I think would be the most competitive series. And early on, I was actually rather shocked and surprised at how easily Australia got off to a very good lead. They had a couple of tries in the bag. England was struggling their way with a couple of kicks, and I thought to myself, wow, the Wallabies are going to blow this one out of the water. The pace of the game was fast, and that suited Australia. What this game was, in a nutshell, was a tussle over the speed of the game. The control of the speed was what this game was all about. And England, to their credit, and you've got to give them a shitload of credit for this match as well, they really arm wrestled, they fought, they dragged, they kicked and screamed their way to get control of the speed. They slowed it down, they pulled it back to how they wanted to play, and ultimately they found a way back into the game. One man for England, I think, stood out so massively more than anyone else, was James Haskell. He had an absolute phenomenal match against Australia. He was just something else, absolutely possessed. And the players around him as well, I think, lifted. They were key. The likes of Rob Shaw was very good, and Atoje was very good as well. I think those three were a key. You wouldn't call Rob Shaw a game winner. He does all the stuff, the messy, dirty stuff no one wants to get involved in, but he got some breakdown turnovers. He had a decent match, but Haskell, just phenomenal. And I think Australia, they missed having that playmaking number 12 that they're used to having with a Lealiafano or a Giteau kind of player. They got a few injuries as well, with Pocock now out for the series. Huge loss for the Wallabies, and they also had a loss out in the wing until I think it was Rob Horn who went off. I don't know what his situation is for the rest of the series, but the Wallabies just, the control they had, They let their grip off the match and they lost it very, very quickly. Their scrum got absolutely destroyed. Credit to the front row of England. They did the job on the Wallaby pack, which just in disarray. Scott Seo had a nightmare out there for the Wallabies. And really, the game come down to that control. And once England had it, they did not relinquish it whatsoever. And while you talk about the players who performed very well, I think Mike Brown had a shocking matchup for England. At the back, he just didn't have the speed to take advantage of breaks. Defensively, under the ball, wasn't his best. I think the Wallabies had his number, and I think, personally, England may need to switch that around. As much as I like Anthony Watson in the back line, maybe he needs to go to fullback. They also have Alex Good, who can come into the 15 jumper and keep Watson up in that back line. The bench come on, I think, very well for England as well. George Ford had a pretty good hand in his coming off the bench, and Jack Noel played a very good try right at the death to put that one to bed for England. I think it was a pretty interesting, entertaining matchup, and you really get to see the nitty-gritty of rugby when it breaks down like that. The final score, once again, England 39, Australia 28, and it is the English, the visitors, who take a 1-0 lead in that series. A very interesting series as well, and I'm really keen to see what Australia does to bounce back. I think they, much like the All Blacks, weren't at the top of their game by any standard, but it's a time of season, you know, when the All Blacks in Australia and South Africa go over to the Northern Hemisphere for the end of year tours. Those sides from the Northern Hemisphere are in the same position that the international sides are at now. You know, the season isn't really in full swing, and they're coming together for the first time almost for the new season. So it swings and roundabouts, and England have taken full advantage of their turn on the swing. So our final match of the weekend was South Africa versus Ireland. Now, I predicted this match to be an absolute thrashing to the South Africans. I picked 40 points to not much for Ireland. And what actually transpired in this game had me hooked and had me glued to the matchup. Things started off well for Ireland. They got up to a decent little start, and their points made their way onto the board, and they looked all right. You know, they looked in the game, and they looked like if they could play a full 80 minutes, they could really have a chance of upsetting the Springboks. I mean, Jared Payne scored a very early try. As much as I don't rate Jared Payne, I think he had a pretty decent matchup in this game versus South Africa. And they were sitting pretty at about the 20-minute mark with a 10-3 lead. And that's where things changed significantly. It was Patrick Lambie with the ball in hand, and he looked to make a kick. And CJ Stanley come along trying to charge it down for Ireland, or trying to upset the kick in some way. Missed it completely, and he went flying, hip, knee, somewhere around that area, into the head of Lambie. And he dropped like a sack of wet moss. Absolutely splattered, knocked out before he even touched the dirt. He was gone, and this was a huge amount of conjecture about this as well. The referees looking at the game, they were trying to get Lambie safely off the field. And what actually transpired here was Stander getting a red card. Now, there's a lot of talk and a lot of conversation about was it deserved? Should have it been red? Should have been yellow? Should have even been a penalty at all? I've seen polls around the place about this as well. And my feeling on this is, yes, it was very, very bad. It looked horribly bad. It looked extremely bad. But it wasn't 100% intentional. I think fairly a yellow card would have been enough. But you've got to look at the repercussions of what happened to Lambie here. This changed the game. Big time. Not in the way you're probably thinking if you haven't watched it either. But however, Lambie was off. And I was quite happy about this because it brought on Elton Yantes. I'm a huge fan of Elton Yantes. I think he is an absolute superstar in the making. He's already in the making, isn't he? He's getting on now, but this is his chance to come on and be a star for the Springboks. Stander, red card, he was gone. Ireland were down to 14 men for the rest of the match, and straight away South Africa turned on the points, didn't they? It was a penalty to Yantes pretty much straight away that slotted them to 10-6. Then it was Luazi Mvovo who scored the try for South Africa, and what happened there is Robbie Henshaw received a yellow card. Ireland were down to 13 men. It was actually in the build-up to that Volvo try, Henshaw taking out Yantes as he made the final pass. A really, really bad hit on the fly half, and you've got to say they were taking an absolute punishing hit in the number 10 jumper. So Ireland down to 13 men against South Africa. You've got to say it's game over, don't you? But no, that is not what happened. This is almost like a storybook. Paddy Jackson nails a drop goal. It's 13 all, and we head to half time. Now, of course, there's still 13 men as well, because it wasn't till after the half an hour mark that Henshaw went off. He didn't make his way back on till a few minutes into the second half, and that is when they made another try-scoring play for Ireland. Conor Murray scoring after the halftime break a few minutes after Paddy Jackson nails the conversion. It's 2013. The team a man down has the lead back again. Then the game really broke down and it really became a battle. I think South Africa were really starting to get concerned. They were changing everything. Subs were coming on thick and fast. And then penalty to Paddy Jackson. As time started to wear down the last 15 minutes of the game, Ireland extended their lead out to 10 points. Further changes come the way of the South Africans. And then they got the reward. Peter Steph du Toit scoring, charging to score for South Africa. Yantes nailed the conversion and it was 23-20. Now the two sides were getting into the nitty-gritty. There was drop goals, there was shots at goal, there was penalties, there was everything you could dream of, but it was Ireland who got the decisive play, getting their lead over 3 points. Another penalty to Paddy Jackson. This is just ridiculous, this game. More changes, subs flying everywhere. The game was 26-20 with a few minutes to go. South Africa did what they could, but ultimately, not in this match at all. They were seen out by the Irish. 26-20. Final score. Ireland, upset of the weekend, no question about it, over South Africa. I thought this was going to be a thrashing. I thought this was going to be South Africa all the way. Such an exciting team, an exciting squad, exciting players picking on form. How wrong was I? How absolute wrong was I? And credit, so much credit has to go to Ireland. Devon Toner picked up man of the match, and you've got to say everyone in that Irish team that was still on the field should have got man of the match. Their defence was immaculate, but it was one of those games, almost like we've seen from the Sharks in Super Rugby, where Ireland, they lived off South African mistakes, and boy oh boy did South Africa make a lot of mistakes. They were pushing knock-ons out all the time, dropping the ball, just every which way you look. There were errors, there were mistakes, and it was just going all very wrong for the South Africans. But Ireland, you got to give it to them. Passion. Where did it come from? Where did Ireland come from? So much talk about who they didn't have playing that these guys have just come out and just absolutely pulled out the middle finger straight to the Springboks and said, not today, South Africa. Not today. This is our game. Jared Payne, I thought, played very well. I'm going to say it again. Paddy Jackson, another one, exceptional for the Irish. Their forward pack defensively, they really matched up almost to South Africa and the forwards who tried to play that bully game, but it didn't really work for them throughout the game. They couldn't really build on anything because they made so many mistakes. That was the storybook of South Africa versus Ireland. Just such a phenomenal match. I don't think I could portray how addictive that game was with the chance of the upset to Ireland. It was just absorbing. Of course, commiserations go out to all the South African fans out there. I know there's a lot of you out there, but wow, they just play so badly. I don't think South Africa are going to play that badly, but I do hope they keep trying the attacking game, which they did. Throw the ball around, they gave it a chance, and it just didn't come off. The ball didn't stick whatsoever for the Springboks. They went down, of course, 26-20 to Ireland. it still sounds weird saying it. I thought this was the sure thing series to end the weekend. I thought, Wales a chance against New Zealand, England, big chance to beat Australia, but Ireland, no. No, not at all. So, a very absorbing night of rugby on my side of the Tasman here to finish the weekend. But before we go, we have had one more game that was played on Tuesday night. That is tonight as I record this. The game is just not long finished. The Waikato Chiefs versus Wales. Now this game, I thought much as I did for South Africa, I thought the Chiefs would give Wales a bit of a tickle up. I thought they'd give them a bit of a rush. They'll try to play some attacking game and, open them up to the speed of New Zealand rugby. And I thought Wales may struggle with it, but they'd adapt because the Chiefs didn't have a very Super Rugby level side out there on the paddock. But what happened once again was anything but. Let me read the score out to you here. Just pay attention to this one. Waikato Chiefs, Super Rugby B team, of course, for the All Blacks and international players away. Chiefs 40. Wales 7. 40-7. Chiefs over Wales. Now I know there's a lot of excuses out there. Oh, it wasn't the Welsh best side. There was a lot of players missing, backing up from a test match. I understand that, I get it. But you should still be beating this B team from the Chiefs. There's a lot of players missing. Plenty in the All Blacks. Damani Valu, Damien McKenzie, Cruden, and the forwards, Retallick is there, Sam Cane. I mean, there's more as well. I just can't think off the top of my head. But that is a half a team of All Blacks not there. Nathan Harris, another one, of course, the hooker. And so I'm trying to think of others. Michael Leach away with Japan as well. I mean, there's a lot of players they're missing, and they're picking up a back row pretty much from club rugby. Stephen Donald, who's hardly played any rugby in the last couple of years, out and out man of the match for me. He was unbelievably good. So good. Breaking the line. I mean, Stephen Donald wasn't a real taker of the ball to the defensive line, but he was so damn good in that match, it was ridiculous. They put the Welsh side to bed. Absolutely destroyed them. From start to finish, Wales had nothing in that game. They threw away big chances. The Chiefs were just so good. Kicking over the top of the defensive line, regathering the hands, the offloads, everything. I didn't see this game going this way at all. 40 points to 7, the Chiefs over Wales. I'm interested to see if anyone watched that match out there and what you all thought about it. I think that is a massive result. Historical result for the Chiefs and an absolute embarrassment for the Welsh. Absolute thrashing against the Chiefs. And, you still got to go out and say, well played, Wales. You didn't have to play this game, but you've come here, you've accepted the invitation. Sure, your team got pretty badly beaten, and you've got to take it on the chin and go face the All Blacks in a few days' time. But they come and they played the game. The crowd got an amazing match. Their team got the job done. But how much of an effect will this have on Wales? They played pretty good against the All Blacks last weekend, and you've got to say they should have been feeling quite confident that for 3/4 of that game, they were in the match. They were definitely there or thereabouts. Now, they've been absolutely walloped by a Super Rugby side, missing all their stars. So they come out questioning their ability again. Have they gone one step forward and 2 steps back following that midweek matchup? I really hope not. I'd like to see another good match this weekend with Wales and the All Blacks, but who knows what the mentality will be of the Welsh side this weekend. A big result for the Chiefs. I can't emphasize how massive this match was. They were just sublime, and the Chiefs just wanted that result more. Wales, I think they must have, really, they would have had to underestimate this Chiefs team. James Lowe, phenomenal as well in the back line. I'm really impressed with James Lowe. Leonard Brown was another big one. Horrell, another good one. The 3 in the back row for the Chiefs. 2 of which I've never even heard of because they've never played. Brown, Boshier, and the man we've seen already in the Chiefs jumper, Sanders, just sublime as well. It was a great match from the Chiefs. I'll say it 100,000 times, and really capped off an amazing few days of rugby as well. Alright, that wraps up our quick little look at the weekend's action, as well as that midweek game which was played out tonight. I'll be back in tomorrow with a look Hopefully the teams will be named by then. We can have a look at the games coming up this weekend. Again, Wales against New Zealand, England, Australia, and Ireland, South Africa. I almost want to stay up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and watch that Ireland-South Africa game again, because that series has just come alive following that result. Amazing rugby over the weekend. I hope you all had a great weekend enjoying your rugby action out there. I hope your team is going well as well. And of course, let me know your thoughts on all these matters regarding rugby in the comments below. Always good to have some conversation going for you guys. Your opinions are never wrong, so feel free to let them in the comments as well. We can all have a look, and discussions are great. So that's me for today. Thanks for tuning in and watching. I'll see you again very soon. Until then, take care.